What's going on, people? My name is Giancarlo Stigliano and I'm here today with AdoramaTV. I was recently put to the task to utilize a few pieces of gear for a really cool project, and I'm also going to be doing a little breakdown on how we accomplished the look. So before we dive into how this project was made, I think we should take a look first.
Just breathe. You can't always control what goes on the outside, but you do have control over what goes on inside. If what you're doing doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Yoga doesn't just transform the way we see things. It transforms the person who sees. Just breathe.
So this spec project was really fun to create, and I really thank AdoramaTV for the opportunity to be able to go out and create a project like this with a bunch of my talented friends, for being able to provide some products that we were able to utilize on this shoot and test out. A few topics that we're going to be going over today include the camera that we used, which was the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2. We paired that with the DZO Pictor lens, the 20-55, as well as the 55-125mm lens. And we powered the camera with the Hypercore Neo9 Mini V-mount battery. And what's cinematography without lighting? For this entire project, we used only Nanlite Lighting Products, and I'm really excited to dive in a little bit on how this project was made. So real quick, the concept of this video is a girl yoga practitioner working on a new flow, and you'll notice throughout the video that she is extremely talented. There's one part where she keeps kind of messing up, or she can't seem to get it properly, and throughout the video you'll notice that she ends up accomplishing it at the end. We paired these scenes with a really nice voiceover that go along with the scenes that pretty much tie the story in together. So for those that don't know me, my go-to camera for the past year and a half has been the Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro 4.6K G2. Mouthful, but it's seriously such a beast of a camera. Traditionally, on a lot of shoots that I work on, especially as a DP, I pretty much operate most of the time. I either do handheld, sticks, or gimbal. But for this project, I really wanted to challenge myself as a DP and a director and bring on a good friend of mine, Colin Welsh, who is a Steadicam operator from Philadelphia. For this project, we shot at 4.6K resolution at an 8:1 compression ratio, and we also utilized Blackmagic's B-RAW. Another reason why I chose to shoot in B-RAW was because Blackmagic just came out with a really amazing feature on DaVinci Resolve 17, which includes the Gen 5 color science. Now, for anyone that has used the Ursa prior to this coming out, you know that we've been shooting on the Gen 4 color science. So now, looking at both of these together, Gen 4 and Gen 5, you'll notice that the Gen 5 is a very flat profile compared to Gen 4, which I thought personally was very flat, but now looking at Gen 5, I noticed that there isn't as much contrast, it's not as punchy. When you have a flat image, that really allows for the flexibility and creativity in post and coloring to be able to really do what you want with the image and be able to retain as much detail as possible. A few other points that I want to mention about the Ursa include its color science. I'm a big fan of Ari's Alexa Mini, and for me, the Ursa is a great resemblance of that color space. It really creates a nice filmic look. The highlight roll-off is just beautiful, and it's not as punchy and contrasty as other cameras are. So it really creates a nice soft image right out of the bat, which for me personally tends to my taste really well. Now, speaking of the filmic look, we paired this camera with the DZO Pictor lens. These are a 35mm Parfocal lens, and we utilize the 20-55mm primarily on this shoot, but we also use the 55-125 for a few tights and close-ups. Having used these lenses before, I knew that I was going to get a really nice warm mid-tone, and I was going to get a little bit softer of an image compared to the classic Sigma Arts that I usually pair with my Ursa. Now, these lenses aren't the sharpest nor the softest. They're a really good middle ground for anyone that is looking to step up in lenses from the Sigma Art lineup. What's really great about these lenses is the option to change between PL and EF mount. Now that pairs perfectly with the Ursa because you also have the ability to change the Ursa's mount from EF to PL, which inevitably gives you way more options of lens choices and creativity like anamorphic or any sort of PL mount lens. If you only have EF, then you are slightly limited to the lens choices, which was a main reason why I got the Ursa, was the versatility that this camera can provide for you. So both of these lenses rate at a T2.8, which is pretty fast, and after talking to my first AC Charles, we noticed that these lenses don't really breathe at all, which really is an amazing thing, especially for your running gun shooters who are changing focal lengths often or changing focus very often. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of lens breathing. I think they have their moment and their place, but I think these lenses having the minimal breathing, slightly non-existent breathing that they do, really helps the viewer stay engaged in the scene, especially when you're racking focus from one thing to the other. A few last points that I want to mention about the DZO lenses is for the price point, you are getting an extremely well-built lens. The metallic shell on the outside does not feel cheap. It has some weight to it, but it's not too heavy. It's a very manageable lens. And another really great feature that DZO added is the fact that it comes in a nice hard case. And for the price that you get, you really can't beat this quality. The last product that we paired with our camera was the Hypercore Neo9 Mini V-mount battery. Now this battery is extremely tiny, hence the mini version. And to be honest, this battery lasted us pretty much the entire shoot, which I think was about 3 hours or so. The compactness of this battery allows for versatility. It is extremely small, very light. It has built-in LCD screen, which you could read the battery time, the percentage. It also has a USB port and D-tap for any additional power needs that you need to run to your camera. As a cinematographer, your job doesn't only cover camera and lenses, you also have to understand lighting. And to me personally, that is one of my favorite parts about being a cinematographer, is being able to create a space with light. For this project, we only use Nanlite products to light this entire scene. So the first thing I want to mention about this project is looking at the space, you'll notice that there's a ton of natural light from these big windows. So based on the positioning of the talent and where we placed her in relation to the windows, you'll notice that the light from the windows create a really nice side light, backlight, and a really nice motivating key light. So based on the positioning of the talent and how we utilize the windows as a motivating key light, we took a step back and looked at how the natural light was acting in our image. And sometimes simplicity is best and not overcomplicating things, and especially if you want to get a really nice natural look. So to help emphasize the motivating key light, which is the window, we used a few different lights to help wrap the light around our subject and background. So the first light that we added next to the window was our Nanlite Forza 500, which is the most powerful light. The reason why we put this first next to the window, we wanted to be able to compete as equally as possible to the light coming from the windows. So noticing that the windows are extremely bright and it's pretty much one of the hottest points in the image, using the Forza 500, that might not be as powerful, window being the hottest, next the Forza 500, which helps wrap that motivating light a little bit. And using the Forza 500 with a lantern allowed us to get a really nice soft rounded light that isn't extremely directional, but it just created a nice soft ambient light. So to continue with the wrapping technique that we went for, the next light that we used was the Mixpanel 150. That was also set to 5600 Kelvin, and we shine that through a polysilk diffusion frame. So this light is primarily used as a fill to help reduce the contrast in the shadows and be able to continue wrapping the image around her face for a more high-key look. For this one, we weren't going for a low-key or high-key, but I wanted to create a little bit of a mid-ground level. So there are still some shadows, but I wanted to make sure that her face was wrapped very nicely. The next light that we used was the Forza 300, and we shot this right at the ceiling. The reason why we did this was to increase just the general ambience inside the room. Having enough level in our room already with all three of these lights help us balance the image with the highlights and the shadows, really utilizing the full 15 stops of dynamic range that the Ursa provides. So the last light that I want to talk about is something that I think is a really cool touch. Now, if you notice in this scene that there's a huge piano, and the key light coming from the Forza 500 and the lantern seems to get stopped at the base of the piano, and when our talent goes towards the ground, the light doesn't really hit her as much. So our solution to this problem was to take a Nanlite Pavo tube set again to 5600 Kelvin to help continue the balanced key light that we had coming from the lights above the piano. So when the talent was working more towards the ground, that pavo tube that was a little bit at a lower angle just helped emphasize that key light a little bit more, so we can keep a little bit better of a balanced image instead of her going down below the piano and losing all detail in her face. So taking a look at the images that we created from this scene, I'm really happy with the outcome. With companies like Nanlite being able to provide affordable lights of this power and quality, also paired with camera companies like Blackmagic being able to afford affordable cameras of this quality of 15 stops of dynamic range, 4.6K, and an amazing color science, you're really able to create something that looks like it was shot on a $50,000 camera and tens of thousands of dollars worth of lights. And I'm really excited to be a part of this filmmaking community and share my experiences with you guys, and being able to use these products and being able to experience what these companies can do for young filmmakers like myself. So that's it for this breakdown. I want to give a quick shout out to the crew members that helped make this project happen. Colin Welsh, the amazing Steadicam op, Charles Thorpe, our amazing first AC, Rangel Lubin, our gaffer, Tomas Jesamaria, our amazing BTS shooter, and Danny Rocco, the very talented yoga practitioner in our film. Once again, thank you to AdoramaTV for the opportunity to allow me to speak on their platform and share my experiences as a DP and using these new technology and new equipment that are really helping shape and revolutionize the filmmaking community. And once again, my name is Giancarlo Stigliano. I'm a DP based in Philadelphia, PA, and hopefully I get to see you guys again. But until next time, have a great day. Peace out.